מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר. בינות אשר ירביצני, המנוחות ינחלני. נפשי שובב, ינחני במגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגצל מוות, לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדיפוני כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. With rod and staff you comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. Esainai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Eternal, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm and protect your being. Adonai yishmor tzetecha uvoecha, me'ata ve'ad olam. May the Eternal guard you in your going and your coming, now and forevermore. Death has summoned our beloved Adele Mendel. Our souls cry out unto you, O God. What are we? Are we the creatures of dust whose destiny is but to return to the dust from which we came? The ancient sage has taught us the spirit of the human being is the lamp of the Eternal. Not even the darkness of death can extinguish the light which the Eternal has kindled in the sanctuary of the human spirit. Therefore, O God, we thank you in this solemn hour for that which was deathless in the life of our cherished Adele, and which is now revealed to us in all of its beauty. For her love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship which we shared along life's path and which still continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and of her mind, which brought us joy and happiness and now have become a precious heritage of the Spirit. For all these and more, we give you our praise. Grant unto us, O God, the strength of all the generations of our people, who in the face of bereavement proclaimed, Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Still, blessed be the name of God. Our tradition teaches us birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. As we think about Adele's sacred pilgrimage, two inspirational quotes about dancers come to mind. They capture Adele's spirit, and I'd like to share them with you. First, the kind of quote you find on one of those posters. It reads, "Dancing with the feet is one thing, but dancing with the heart is another." A beautiful dancer, Adele moved her feet to the rhythm of the music with ease and grace. I witnessed firsthand where her heart's passion infused her dance skills to reach deep into her soul and therefore into ours. That was at one of the myriad plays that she performed in for the Jewish Children Foster Home Auxiliary, which raised money for the children to receive services from Belfair. With great presence and panache, Adele made her entrance onto the stage. A prop person, probably one of Mindy's daughters, her cousins, brought a chair into the middle of the set, and Adele gracefully sat upon it. You expected her to just deliver a line. Instead, a huge grin spread across her lips, and that twinkle in her eye engaged the whole audience and readied us for a special treat. Adele heard the music, and her feet just took off into her tap routine like she'd been doing it since she was a young girl, which she had been. I'd never seen someone do that, hands and feet energetically moving to the beat while maintaining her posture seated on her chair. What a sight. Memorable for me. Such perseverance, such bravery. Apparently from a very young age, Adele enjoyed dancing and would dance with her parents who had won many prizes at amateur dance contests for their beautiful waltz. Adele would advance her dance skills to the level of a professional dancer. She had the ability to see the step, and with photographic muscle memory, she would memorize it and perform it, and later teach it to others. Her career would take her from Cleveland Heights High School, where she would perform in the school shows and sing in the a cappella choir, to Los Angeles, where she lived on her own for 3 years and appeared in dance productions. In between, starting at the age of 16, when her father's health was compromised, she worked odd kinds of jobs. Her initial intention of attending Miami of Ohio was thwarted by unexpected changes in the family finances, but smart and industrious and ready to make the best of every situation, Adele attended Dyke Business School at night. Eventually, Adele went to work for a couple of people who had broken off from the original office supply store she worked at to establish Anchor Office Supply. Adele became their trusted employee, balancing the books and doing the buying. She would fill in every position, especially if someone was on vacation for the next 40 years. Adele grew up in a home where the family helped to fill in for each other, and they knew how to laugh together through it all. Her parents, Sam and Fanny, each came from families with 9 children, so the family gatherings were immense and intense. Adele herself was one of 4 children and remained close with her siblings, with Stanley, with Ellen, and with Robert. And that would be especially true of the closeness that she held Ellen in. Ellen was her strength in times of difficulty, too. Their spouses, Harriet, Sid, and Carol, were a big part of her life, and she held the position, a most honored and venerable position of most favorite aunt. Because one of her nephews could not pronounce Adele properly, she became the beloved Aunt Dee Dee. She was like the queen bee, everyone coming to see her at family gatherings and introducing her to their special people. Many of these family affairs were organized around Jewish holidays and traditions, which were very important in the family, and the temple was a central part of Adele's life from a very young age. Although she would have her sons become bar mitzvah in the Orthodox tradition to please her in-laws, she herself became a bat mitzvah in the first temple adult B'nai Mitzvah class. She loved that study, and she was as nervous as she was proud on that special night. Here is where another inspirational quote comes to mind. It captures a dancer's attitude as Adele's spirit. It's a reference to Miriam in the Bible as she leads the women in song. Debbie Friedman wrote it like this: "And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song." Adele sang in our temple choir for over 20 years. I can still picture her in the choir box because wherever she was, you felt her strong presence. That would be true in her organizational life as well. As an officer of the Temple Women's Association and as the president of Na'amat Women, and working in their office and attending regional meetings, people just flocked to her. She was even the honoree of the year at the Belfair Jewish Children's Home Auxiliary for her leadership in writing and performing, for her fundraising ability over 2 decades. She loved every minute of being with her partners in crime on that stage. She had that mischievous smile that lit up a room, and entering any room, she seemed to know everyone. Then again, that could have been because she was related to everyone. But knowing Adele was not just worthy of a casual hello. Rather, her warm smile and her readiness with a word of encouragement quickly made her your friend. I can remember first arriving at the temple, young and a girl, and Adele was among the first to welcome me into a fun and dynamic group of women. They were my treasures for a very, very long time. She was not just a leader amongst women, however. She was also a leader amongst men. David Mendel recognized that right away as she led him into a beautiful life. They met when he gave her a ride from Cedar Point back to Cleveland. After 3 dates, Dave told her he was going to marry her. In contrast, Adele wrote in her journal, I was in love with someone else, but he persisted and I gave in. They were married on Christmas Day, 1951, at the temple, and the tune sung at the wedding was, "I'll Be Loving You Always." How could she not? Dave put her on a pedestal and never took her down for their 33 years of marriage. Despite financial challenges due to Dave having his first heart attack at 47, they had wonderful years of travels to Canada and California, to Israel and to Mexico, and they enjoyed their place in Florida too, with her sister. Adele also enjoyed going to elder classes and to theater and musical performances. And above all, she was proud that they had managed to get all three of their children through college, and she took great pride in each of them succeeding in their chosen professions. Sadly, Dave passed at the age of 60 in 1984, and though Adele found numerous ways to keep her life busy with lots of friends surrounding her and kept her optimistic spirit up, she never quite got over that tremendous loss. Still, circumstances pushed her out of her comfort zone. When she was about 55, kind of like the speed limit that she never quite got up to, and just about the time that Steve was learning to drive, reversing roles, he became his mother's driver instructor, while he taught her how not to stop in the middle of an intersection. She nonetheless became committed to making only right-hand turns to get to her destination. She knew the roads very well. Adele adored all three of you, her children. She adored you for the many gifts that you brought into her life. She was always proud of each of you and would share that with me so many times. And she was grateful for how helpful you were. You would say that you were just repaying the devotion that she gave to you as a mother. She was indeed the kind of mother who was devoted to you, and she made your lives fun. She shared her anniversary celebration with you in the traditional Jewish experience of Christmas, defined by Chinese dinner and a movie. She was there to lead your Cub Scouts and your Girl Scout troops and to teach you important life skills. Cooking, however, and baking even less so, were not her forte. She stuck to basics like tuna fish for breakfast or meatloaf for dinner. But she encouraged Sandy to pick up the slack in the kitchen early on and to experiment with more delicate flavors, and even sent you to the grocery store. That became your chore. Adele would meet you on other occasions at a restaurant near the bus stop to have special time just with you, giving you independence and strength to become your own person. Adele was a wonderful inspiration to you as you overcame your own health issues. I know she always worried about you, Sandy, and you about her. For Josh, there was the wonderful trip together for great fun to Nova Scotia. An avid Indians fan, there were baseball games to watch together, but more importantly, she taught you how to be responsible and how to be disciplined in your life. Her work ethic motivated your own diligent work, and your devotion to your mom was one of true loyalty to her wishes. Steve, you and Wendy and Jonathan and Eric were her regular companions at Temple. She wouldn't miss, rather she wouldn't let her miss an opportunity to share Shabbat dinner or a special event in the children's lives. And she loved being in Israel with all of you for Eric's bar mitzvah and when he blew the shofar. She rejoiced in the accomplishments of you boys. She loved watching Eric's baseball games and reading with Jonathan, even taking him out to lunch sometimes. And Miranda and Angela, how pleased Adele was to welcome you as the granddaughter she'd never had. And Wendy, Adele was so grateful that you shared so many holidays and occasions with her. You allowed her to depend on you, especially as her health deteriorated, and you were able to monitor her needs so closely at the nursing home. Even at Myers and then at the home, she was making new friends. She was participating in new social activities, social and full of fun. She enjoyed playing Mahjong. She joined a bowling league, and she even took up Wii bowling and was featured on Channel 8 News, her 30 seconds of fame. But Adele had more fame than most. From her tap dancing to her dancing into our hearts, Adele was a kind, loyal, and wise woman, and a very special friend. With her presence on stage and in our lives, she became the focal point of loved ones and the catalyst for bringing people together. This is what we remember on this day, how she convened people and created opportunities for fun and joy. Adele's passing leaves a huge hole in the hearts of her family and in all of us. No doubt it's the end of an era, the era of those elaborate plays that she co-wrote, the end of those special friendships that not only enriched her life, but that all of us who surrounded her during her years were the beneficiaries of. Adele lived to be 94 years old, and most of those she lived with a young spirit. Adele Mendel lived out her life with courage, with joy, and with purpose. And she also lived it, she stated, by the guiding principles of the prophet Micah, who declared, "It has been told to you, what does the Eternal require of you? To do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Adele lived with a strong sense of pursuing justice throughout her life. She showed kindness and mercy to all those in need, and she lived with humility and with grace, walking always the path of God. What a legacy of love and of meaning she bequeaths to all of you, to all of us. As we join now with the sages to declare, Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be our blessing. Amen. I'd like to call on her niece, Sue Mayer, to share a few words on behalf of the family.
My mother, Ellen, and Adele, as Rabbi said, were more than sisters. They were best friends through life. And they looked very much alike, actually. And if you want to know what they looked like, look in my mirror sometime when I'm brushing my teeth, just like them. My earliest memory, there probably were others, but my earliest memory of Adele was being in Adele and Dave's wedding when I was 5 years old. I was the flower girl. And my cousin Rick, who named her Dee Dee, was the ring bearer. Though I remember that vividly. Then I remember her being my champion when I took up tap dance, ballet and tap dance. I never got really good at either one of those, but particularly tap dance. I just couldn't make my feet go like Aunt Dee Dee's. And so I gave it up. But later in life, I remember going to watch her lessons. I think she took up tap dancing later on and would go to Dave Morgenstern's studio up at Cedar and Green, and I would go and cheer her on. She was an amazing, amazing natural dancer. Mom and Adele and Dave and my mom and dad always lived around the corner for their whole married lives, lived around the corner from one another. First when you guys lived on Invermere, and we lived on Gladstone in Warrensville Heights, and we would cut through the woods where you picked raspberries in the dirt road, and we would get to your house before it was all developed. And later, we lived on Charney, and you lived on Grenville, so we were always around the corner from one another. And in those years, The Mendels were the keeper of many things. They were the keeper of our family pet, Bon Bon, when we went on vacation. And I remember one time, frantic phone calls when Bon Bon decided to have a stroke on your stairs when we were all out of town, and Adele was calling all around to try to find someone to make, I think she found Hillary, to make a decision about Bon Bon. And they were the keeper of the keys, because the Solomon girls were kind of famous for losing their keys. So they always had a key, a Solomon key. And they were the keeper of, I think, conservatively, at least 25 or 30 place settings of the Franciscan, where the other 25 or 30 lived at our house and got schlepped back. They got schlepped to all the family occasions, Passover and Thanksgiving. I don't know why we didn't use paper plate. Do you know why we didn't use Probably something to do with Grandma Fanny, I think. And that Franciscan ware now lives at Hillary's house and Josh's house and a lot of other places. Right. As I say, they looked very much alike, Adele and Ellen. And Adele took the 32A bus to work, I think, and regularly. And my mom occasionally took it because she didn't drive. And when my mom would get on the bus and sit down, someone would often sit down next to her and start a whole conversation thinking they were talking to Adele. And she would, I'm not Adele, don't know what you're talking about. But they looked so much alike that the people would always be convinced. And the same thing that happened there happened later at Myers. When your mom moved to Myers, my mom had passed away. My mom died just before her 68th birthday, unfortunately. But people at Myers would come up to Adele and say, Ellen, I haven't seen you for so many years. And then Adele would have to say, well, sadly, Ellen passed away. I'm Adele. I remember that Adele, my first summer job was, I was an Avon lady. Adele was my best customer. Somehow, every 2 weeks, she needed beauty products. Whatever it was, she always bought something every time my order went in. She also came, I do remember she came and I cut her hair. At some point, she would come and we would, I would be a beauty parlor and I would cut her hair. We both wear our hair short. Probably that had to do with why she needed so many beauty products, because I have no training in cutting hair. But she was always a loyal customer. She always wanted to support us all. I, of course, remember the JCGH shows. If you were born with the name or married into the name Felber or Kramer, or were friends of anyone with that name, you were either on the stage or you were in the audience of the Jewish Children Group Home Auxiliary show every year, and everyone looked forward to that. I remember the themes always were different, but you could plan on Lil Braverman. I'm looking at the next generation of cast, because the daughters came in too. Lil Braverman and Elaine Felber cracking them up, Ellen singing a solo, and Adele dancing into everybody's heart. That was what everybody looked forward to. She was a doting grandma, a doting great aunt. She called our daughter Abby her Goyle friend. They were friends. They did stuff together. So this morning I was thinking I will remember Aunt Dee Dee. I still think of her as Aunt Dee Dee. Every time I eat tuna fish, every time I misplace my keys, which means I will think of her often, every time I see a tap dancer, and as late as a couple nights ago when we were watching the movie La La Land again, somebody turned to somebody else and said, wow, Aunt Dee Dee would have loved that scene. And as things have worked out, she'll still be around the corner for me at the cemetery, and I will visit her often and do a little shuffle brush step in her honor, you can be assured. I do want to read some remarks of my sister Deborah, who couldn't be here today. She's out of the country. She wrote a letter to Aunt Dee Dee. Dear Aunt Dee Dee, for nearly 95 years, you have been a wonderful aunt and a personal hero. You left home to tap dance your way to fame, and I know that your spirit, now loose, is shuffling off to Buffalo. Thank you for the years of love and tuna fish salad like no other, for dancing at my wedding, and for being my mom's best friend. We'll miss her.
based on Rabbi Rosie's remarks, I thought you might want to hear a special song. I'll be loving you always, with a love that's true always. When the things you've planned need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair always. That's when I'll be there always. Not for just an hour, not for just a day, not for just a year, but always.
I want to add a paragraph that I skipped for a moment, just to thank Phil for all his help in taking care of Adele as well. Each of us has precious memories of Adele. As we think of her, we open our hearts and take a moment now to silently compose the eulogy of our own hearts beating. יהיו לרצון אמרי והגיון ליבי לפניך, רנאי צורי וגואלי. May not only the words that I speak, but even my most precious meditations and private memories be acceptable to you, my God, my rock, and my Redeemer. Amen. We ask God to accept Adele's soul with the words of El Malay. Please rise.
El male rachamim, shochen bamramim, amsemen uchana tachat kanfech hashchina, memalot kedoshim utorim, kezochar arakia masirim, et nihishmat Ruth bat Shmuel ufege, shahalcha leolama began Eden tehe menuchata. Ahna baharachamim astirecha, בסתר כנפך לעולמים, ותתרור בתררחיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום, על משכבה ונאמר, אמן.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Hannah bat Shmuel v'Fegi, Shahalcha Olama, who has entered unto eternity. To our beloved Adele Rosenberg Mendel, O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Amen. Our service continues at the Mayfield Cemetery, and the family invites you to join them at the residence of Wendy and Steve, which is 5454 Tayport Drive in Solon. The family will be observing Shiva following the service until 5 p.m. and Saturday evening 6 to 8, and Sunday afternoon from 1 to 5. You may be seated.